Good morning, everyone. As Jean was saying, I'm the founder and CEO of a few companies here in Bahrain. I would like to start by first thanking WorkSmart. They're doing a great job in putting together this virtual Bahrain event. Now, a bit about my background. I was born in Saudi and I've been living all my life here. I'm a graduate of King Fahd University. In terms of cybersecurity, the session I'm moderating today, uh, I myself personally got into cybersecurity in 1997. And from that time to up to 2014, I was more of a system integrator for cybersecurity, where I was representing a lot of big technology names in security and implementing those technologies around all my customer base. While doing so, one of the challenge I felt was that there is a gap because I saw that each year the problems were going up. People were spending more to secure themselves, and still the gap kept on growing. So one of the areas which I looked into at that time was that, okay, there is another human aspect, and that's why I know Martin. Martin is also on my panel today. So that's how I reached out to Martin and took his assistance and help to also bring in more security awareness, because we look at them as the weakest chain. But then at the same time, I noticed something else which I felt was missing, that in the cybersecurity, there are in any attack, three phases of an attack: pre-compromise, compromise, and post-compromise. Though organizations were having a lot deploying technology inside the organization, they were not really putting much efforts, and there were not much offerings from service provider outside the firewall, which would be to say that you address the threats or the attacks in a pre-compromised situation. So for that specific one, I started building my own technology platform, and that was CTM 360. Prior to this CTM 360 platform, I did try to build a few more. I had introduced an email firewall back in 2005. Did not go anywhere. It was a failed attempt, though I believe it was something really good, but maybe because I was trying to build it out of this part of the world. And that gave me also this resilience that I need to build something out of this part of the world. But the 2014 initiative of CTM 360, mashallah, it went well. It was well received, and I started having a good customer base. So out of CTM 360, then I extracted the R&D team and set up another company, EDX Labs. So EDX Lab became my R&D, through which then I have already launched two more platforms in Bahrain. One is Pentest 360 and another one is DMARC 360. I have also built another fourth platform, which we will be launching soon in Saudi, MG 360. All of them are sort of around cybersecurity. But the whole idea is we can manifest more of this concept that we can build technologies here, not just for local consumption, but for global. So this is why the slogan in our EDX lab, which says, build locally and scale globally. I'll take a few more minutes before I introduce my panelists and go to the talks. I just want to mention this aspect that cybersecurity is having this new, or let's say a pushed sense to come in the forefront, because in the past, cybersecurity was normally in the organization like a thought, an afterthought, where business used to be coming in and pressing things to roll out, and then only security used to be thought about. But with COVID-19, the situation that everybody is being pushed into the cloud has also changed, I think, the mindset in the executive management at the board level, where they've started looking at cybersecurity as something which they need to be addressed and they're accountable for. And when they see their infrastructure moving into the cloud, then the concern of security is higher. I normally try to also give an example to understand that in the way things are heading, the technology is heading, we don't need to build things in the sense that we are trying to build it to last, we have to build it to adopt. So we have to be agile. This means security has to be agile also. Uh, uh, Now, what happens is that when we move all our infrastructure in the cloud, the way we were using technology before has to change. And the way we were using security before also has to change. Uh, the way, and I'll be asking later one of my panelists, George, I'm telling you now, I'll be asking you about the aspect where we need to be looking into the cloud in the DevOps area. How do we integrate security from the very beginning? And also, George, you have to talk about later on the ransomware side. Now, let me go to my first speaker, Dr. Safa. Dr. Safa is from Kuwait. She did her master's and bachelor's from Kuwait, but then on she moved on to Canada, where she did her doctorate on computer engineering. She's currently assistant professor in information science at Kuwait University. Her research is focused on information privacy, network security, intelligence systems for assisting secure communication, security of social networks and recovery systems, and so on. Dr. Safa, mashallah, is also the president of Kuwait Association of Information Security. Dr. Safa, it's over to you. We would be love to be hearing your talk today.
Hi there, hi everybody. I am very glad to be part of this conference, and really, I hope that everybody gains some benefits from my presentation. Now, I will start my presentation. A second.
You can share the screen.
Yeah. I will speak now today about human factor dynamic in cybersecurity. First, at the beginning, I'd like to share this video with you.
Do you feel the helplessness? My keys. I'll go. Do you feel the gratitude? And what do you feel now?
Just I want to indicate that sometimes this system is strong and everybody is perfect, but the weak points concern in human behavior. Here I will show you some statistic regarding phishing, most serious attack. As you can see here, the careless, it's considered to be around 12%. Even this is one of the human factor effects, even the phishing. It's the here the yellow one. This one is this other statistic, the vulnerability is also considered. Look, the blue lines, which is careless and of or unaware employee. What happened? The blue one, the highest line. Even here you can check the threads. One of the threads is the phishing, which is also happen through the human, the green lines. Here, the researcher have stated that the human error considered to be around exceed 80% of the thread in the system. Here, other study indicate that the human factor also considered to be more than 19, because this is the end user error, undetermined. Here, when you consider it, it's around 90%. Most of a human error come from mobiles, come from public data with the cloud services, cloud infrastructures. In general, the cybersecurity concentrate into through three factors: people, which I maybe I draw with a big wheel, technology and organization. Here, I let me
We
share
once
this
thought
video.
more tools meant more security, but they only led to more complexity and less safety. We don't need more security tools. We need new security rules. The new rules give you an open, connected security platform that closes gaps in your defenses. They sharpen your focus on the most crucial threats first. Not every event you see. They help you stop threats 60 times faster. They turn a skills shortage into legions of experts. We once thought
Cyber security here. The problem with our system, why we face يعني difficult in saving our system, it's the behavior. It's a human being. It's the behavior change problem, not the tools. So my research is concentrating in two phases. First phase, I measure the awareness of employee in Kuwait, and I make many survey, and I will show you the result of the survey. The second phase, now I'm working on it to establish ecosystem, artificial ecosystem tool to improve the human behavior. The first phase, I find suitable human factor error, applied measurements, apply it in employee in Kuwait. Then I will show you the analysis and results. I use some measurements from paper that concern that can measure the human factor by five factors: the omission, commission, extranets, sequence, sorry, six factor, and time error. I will explain each one for you together. Um, Omission, in which people forget to perform necessary action. Commission, in which people perform incorrect procedure or action. Extraneous act, which involve doing something unnecessary. Sequential act, which involve doing something in wrong order. Depend on this measurement, I get my result. I make survey and I get these results in Kuwait. طبعا I apply it in all the area, all the sectors. I apply it in military sector, government sector, private sector, and also oil company sector. Here the results for act omission, I get that, as you can see, partially educated. What I mean by partially, let me clarify this for you. I make to measure each one of these matrices. I put some indicator, two questions to answer in each matrices. If the guy or the person answered correctly, it mean two question. It mean educated. If he answered the correct answer one question and the other is wrong, I call it partial. No educated, he his manner or his answer, it was bad. Extranic acts, I get that around not educated around 16%, partially 36. For acting commission, I get 44 partially and 7 not educated. Time errors, I get around 36 and 70 not educated. For sequential act, maybe this is the major part, I get 43 not educated and partially 33. As you can see, the need educated here, you can see that 58 52, 43, 50 here, 76 need to be educated. Now I'm done with this study. Now I move to phase two. Now I'm working honestly with the phase two. I'm not done with it. I make study behavior human by studying the workflow. I need to record the behavior, the normal behavior for employee. Then I need to collect the data. After that, I need to invent AI tools to change or update this behavior and adjust the human behavior using. Let me first clarify my thinking or my study. How can I come with this study? How can يعني how I want to invent AI, but depend on this process. Human vulnerabilities in cases is causes by unintentional behavior either or intention behavior. Intention behavior, which is attacker. So this is not my concentration. My concentration is study here in intentional behavior, which which called accident, by accidentally happen. The unintentional behavior by analysis, it can be internal or external. If it's internal, it's come from knowledge and experience, culture, belief, and behavior. External, the organization control, the external, the organization culture, organization policy, and awareness. Regarding the external, here some things about the organization culture, that how individual autonomy, risk tolerance, and other matrices. Organization behavior, for good policy we need to put strategy, we need to set limit of action, reward, punishment. For organization awareness, we need training and this stuff. Let us come to the main point, which is internal, which is my study. What's controlling the internal reasons? Knowledge, expertise, culture, belief. Knowledge, culture, and belief. It's come basic. Believe it's acceptable, but that sometimes exit, or is it true? Like I put some examples. User believe that installing antivirus software is crucial. It's not crucial, and it's make heavy for the system. Or sometimes they are ready to click on a click while they are receiving email from unknown person. Knowledge and expertise, like security tool expertise, self-learning, training, and awareness. Behavior, the behavior to controlling the behavior. There are three things that control the behavior: skill-based error, rule-based error, and knowledge. In general, most error come likely to be skill based, not rule based or knowledge based. To improve the behavior, which is I concentrate my study in this one, it's come from a human organization, or a human must remove the conflict between job performance and security constraint by making security part of the worker job performance. The problem that most of the company in here in Middle East, or also outside, they put a long and boring security constraint. يعني in my job in Kuwait University, if you see the notes for security constraint, it's really boring and nobody read it. Unfortunately, we need to make balance between job performance and security, and make security rules simple as possible. Other things that affect the secure behavior, the motivation. Even here I'm speaking in Kuwait, there is no motivation for the employee that follow the security, that save its account, that that follow the rules. يعني like I mean, motivation, as I mentioned, it's reward and punishment, benefit, salary, commission, bonus, loyalty, and the ethicals and satisfaction are more obscure motives. Here, the other type for to change the secure behavior, it's the policy, to put the right policy, the simple policy, to make balance between the constraint and the speed of the to finish the job. So we all hate security because it's inconvenience, and the constraint it put one of us to perform in our job. Organization policy must be cultivated and maintained to a culture where positive security behavior are valued. They need to be infused in their culture, behavior, and daily tasks. So to adjust secure behavior, we need to put motivation, we need to put a good policy, also demonstration. Why? What I mean by demonstration, you need from time to time to make like fishing for the company, so they feel how, if they hack, how they feel, the bad feel. So they need to have chance or experience to live this feeling, make people enough pain to scare, to use real world example and get personals. To change the behavior or to improve the behavior, we it must be a human or organization by motivation, by demonstration, by policy. There are other tools, which is my research here, which using technology or tools to improve the behavior. What I mean by tools, for example, here to implement tools to enforce policy. Now, most of the system here that we deals with it, to push the people to put a strong password. They do not allow them to create password. They put this line, if you remember, for example, Gmail and other sites or company, they push the person to put a strong password by showing this one, and they do not allow them if the password is weak. So this is considered to be one of the tools that change the behavior and push the person to put a strong password. Other tools, some program that try to use the parent use it to control the deals, يعني to control their children through dealing with the smartphone, like FamiSafe, FamiLink. These software also considered to be tool to push the children to change its behavior and use the mobile, and constraint, so put some constraint on the children to how to use the mobile and this stuff. Of course, my tool now, let me explain, because I finished part of this. First thing, as I told you, I'm now working in AI model to push to push the employee to use the system in a good manner. The first step that I'm working with it, because honestly, I try to record the behavior of employee, and I send letter to many institute in Kuwait and government sector, but unfortunately they refuse to let me to record it. So what I did now, I'm working on it. I use gamification. I'm working in game that try, because I feel how the effects of the games nowadays on children, or even in old people, they are very interesting with the game. So I make gamification in cybersecurity, and I'm done with it a little bit, to know the behavior of the human when they playing, what they should do. And after this, I will transfer to invent AI model to study this behavior. I will extract some features and يعني to enter it for the AI model to study this feature, and to help the people to change the behavior, as I mentioned before, that like enforce them to put a strong password like this one. So I'm now working in gamification. I'm inventing, developing a game in cybersecurity, and what I will get, even in addition to recording the behavior from this game, I will learn, teach the people how to do the correct action in cybersecurity, because as I told you before, that I feel that the games has a good effect in the behavior on people. Like, look, يعني unfortunately now there are very famous games nowadays, like without mentioning name, they affect the people. They يعني the games are bad, honestly, that we saw it. They affect the people. They become more stressed. They become even their behavior. So why we do not develop a good game that give a good things for the people and change their behavior to be better? So recommendation. First thing, user want to security, both security and flexibility. Finding a way to mix these two factors is the crucial. Personnel must be motivated, and management must be actively enforce information security requirement. To be effective, motivation tools, reward, and punishment must be consistent, fair, and eventually apply for the significant period of time. Leadership is essential in promoting positive change in order to encourage leader to become a champion for cybersecurity. It is crucial that issues are presented in a clear and understandable manner. Organization must make balance between job performance and security constraint by making security part of a workers' job performance and appreciate process. Employee educated about importance of security awareness should be priority of the organization. Organization must simulate hacking program from time to time to measure how their employee are educated. Feedback and evaluation are necessary to determine if the security objectives have been effectively communicated to gauge how the current program is working and identify where the changes improvement to the program can be made. Organization must conduct threat analysis to determine the likelihood of unwanted event and motivate the requirement action. Business continuity include incident response and disaster recovery. Finally, here I summarize my work. Security will not advance either we without creating secure behavior for a human, and to create secure behavior, the organization must motivate their employee to transfer to their secure behavior into patterns that is always used. Also, we need to have security policy which must be usable and cultivate to the culture. Finally, which is my work, we need to create ecosystem to motivate and to change the behavior user. An area of my research called usable the future research for my work, that the research called usable security looked at a question such as best way to provide secure activity, and this is other research that I'd like to work on it. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you, Dr. Safa. The question answer, if there is anybody who wishes to put together a question, please, you can ask so. And also we can use the panel discussion time. I do have questions. But overall, Dr. Safa, excellent. What you are pointing out is that what, in a way, you are proving scientifically what Martin has been saying from some time. This is why Martin, I think, built the security awareness company. And Martin is our next speaker. So let me just give you a little background on Martin. He has more than 40 years of experience in cybersecurity and crime prevention business. He's quite well known across the information assurance and cybersecurity world. He is a businessman and a philanthropist. Back in 1997, he put together this company, the security company, where the main focus is, Dr. Safa, what you were exactly saying, the main focus for Martin had been security awareness, how to change the behavior of individuals. And yes, there are those issues where you rightly pointed out that to change the behavior, we need to also use ways to be making it hard for people, or making them accountable through policies in the evaluation as well, to look at an employee, how secure behavior it is for him in his yearly appraisal as well, and then rewarding him with that. Martin has also in 2004 founded SASIG, Security Awareness Special Interest Group. Over the years from 2004 to now, there have been around 4,500 individuals who have become part of his SASIG members, which is around in organizations about 2,500 organizations. SASIG in the past had been running, I think, around 35 plus events each year. But with COVID, Martin has gone on steroids. He's now doing I think around 100, he has crossed 100 in the last 6 months webinars. I'll let Martin now speak about himself and give us his talk. Thank you, Martin. Go on.
Good morning, Mirza. Welcome from England, from myself. And Mirza, you would not expect me not to have Doris with me as well. We're on 130 daily webinars since lockdown. Doris has attended every one of them, so I couldn't leave her out of this morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Martin Smith. I am privileged to be here with you today. I hope you can hear me all right. Out of my window is the North Sea. I live in northeast of England in a place called Whitby, which I think you will probably remember mostly from Dracula, where the ship was wrecked on the beach here at Whitby, and the dog jumped off and ran up into the church on the cliff. That's the most famous thing about Whitby. Oh, and Captain James Cook was born and set sail from here to discover things from around the world. So that's me. I have been in this business for a lifetime. As you can see, I am now quite old. I studied psychology at university in the early 1970s under Professor James Reason. And in my university days, my studies were on human error. I joined the Air Force as a pilot, but as I often say, my instructor got me in and said, Martin, in the Air Force, we like to keep the number of takeoffs and the number of landings roughly equal. So you, I'm afraid, will have to find a different job. So I transferred across into security, and with my psychology background, I eventually moved into behavioral security, and in particular in the early 1980s, in what was then the very, very early days of computer security. Now, so I go right back to the beginning in all of this, and right from the start, I said, yes, we need to secure the environment, but we also need to secure the people. So I'm going to make a short presentation, if I may. This is never as easy as you think it's going to be. I'm going to talk about the threat from human error, because as Dr. Saf has just explained, a lot of this is to do with people. And over the years, we have increased security on the machine, and now it's the human layer that causes all the breaches. I'm going to say all. It is just about all. And if you track any breach back, you'll find a Mark I human being somewhere at the bottom of it that made a mistake. So if you will bear with me, that's what I'd like to talk about. I will just show you the view from my window. That's what it's like today. So I don't know what temperature it is where all you lovely people are, but it was definitely coat, scarf, and hat morning this morning. So that's where I live. I run the SASIG, as Mirza so kindly said. This is my retirement. I've moved up here to retire, but the COVID revitalized the SASIG. We are just a group of, well, it's now 5,000. It's gone up 1,000 since lockdown, of people just trying to tackle cybersecurity insecurities, trying to prevent cybercrime. We don't do it for the money, it's all fun, and we have daily webinars where we just talk about anything and everything to do with cybersecurity, from the highly technical down to the very soft human level aspects. And everybody's very, very welcome to join us. Just go to the website and log on. And yeah, there's something fascinating every day going on, because as much as anything, this is about us sharing knowledge and sharing experiences. That's the only way we're going to move forward here, is for us all to share what we do and how we do it. Human error is at the basis of just about every accident, security incident, data breach. It really is. And one of the reasons why SASIC took off, particularly about 4 years ago, was that we had spent just about every penny we could on just about every technical resource we could think of. And still the breaches were happening. And when you analyze them, they were always caused by human error. It's the only gap now in our defenses. Most organizations are secure, technically and probably procedurally, pretty much in good shape. But because we haven't addressed the human being, then the crims don't need to try and come through our firewalls, technical firewalls. They'll just come in through our human firewalls. So human error should be every single cybersecurity practitioner's basic diet. It's what we should eat, sleep, and breathe. Cybersecurity practitioners need to be technically competent, but they also need to be managers and leaders and communicators and educators. And one of the problems with our industry is that we're not quite as strong as we perhaps need to be in those softer skills. So human error is the fundamental keystone of every transformation project, security awareness campaign, culture change program, whatever we do, we should be trying to address human error. That's the only reason to educate people, is to stop them making mistakes. So we need to understand human error much, much better. And I've been fascinated by this topic, well, yeah, for nearly 50 years now. So what is the nature of human error? Well, we all want to succeed. None of us wants to fail. Nobody wants to become that person that has caused a breach that puts your organization on the front page of the newspapers in the morning. And right from the start, that's how we grow. That's how we learn as children. We get rewarded when we do things right, and we, if not get punished, we certainly don't get rewarded when we do things wrong. That's how I trained Doris. I give her treats when she does things right and not when she doesn't. So we all learn by trial and error. And of course, we need all to make mistakes. You cannot learn to ski, for example, without falling over. It might be a trite example, but I can't actually think of a better one. You know, we learn by making mistakes, but we mustn't make the same mistake twice. I'll come back to that. And in fact, there is an awful lot of luck involved here. Successful people aren't just clever people. They're also lucky people. And people that fail quite often are just unlucky. So a lot of this is beyond our daily control. Luck, fate, I'm a great believer in it. It defines so much of what happens in our lives. Yes, we can all make our own luck, and the harder we work, the luckier we get. But luck is a big part of all of this. So yes, there are unlucky organizations. They're unlucky to have had that particular breach in that particular way. What's unlucky, and I see it all the time, is when they have that same breach again and again and again. Mirza, I just need a thumbs up from you here. Am I doing okay? Is this what you're looking for? Can everybody hear me all right? Is this okay? Great. Now, fear of failure. I've talked about the fact that we will all fail, but fear of failure is one of the biggest things that we face in our lives, and it stops a lot of people from trying. It stops a lot of people from growing. It took me a long time to overcome my own fear of failure. It's absolutely normal. Human error is part of life. Those who don't make mistakes won't make anything. And if we try, then we will fail. So, you know, human error and failure are part of everyday business life. It's how we manage that and how we reduce the effect of failure that's important. And I'm keeping cybersecurity in the context here. We can all leave our laptops unattended for a moment, and it could get a breach because of it. But if we keep doing it, that's the issue. That's where we need to be focused. I get a lot of emotional support by learning from others myself. There's lots of great people who've talked about success and failure. They've talked about human error. My greatest, the one I love the most, is that last one, George S. Patton. Success is measured by how you bounce when you hit bottom. And I have hit bottom so many times in my life. With Smith, I am either flying in the clouds or I'm crashing into the ground. There's nothing in between. I am quite proud of the fact that I don't think I've ever made the same major mistake twice. But I can keep finding new ways of failing, as we all can. So the fear of failing must not be an excuse for trying, and fear of failure must not become a keystone in our defenses. We have to put in place training and education that allows people to learn, but we must recognize that while they're learning, they will make mistakes. It's getting over that constantly repeating mistakes that's important. So let's assume that people will make mistakes, and that is what causes security breaches. How do we manage that? How can we adapt our security awareness program? I'm just going to put Doris down. I need both hands, darling. There you go. You may start to hear her snore shortly. So human error is both universal and inevitable. Can I say that more clearly? It is such a part of what we are and who we are. We can never contain it or eliminate it. Sorry, we can never eliminate it, but we must try and contain it. And errors are not intrinsically bad. It's not the end of the world if mistakes are made. Success and failure are close bedfellows, and we must recognize that both will be in our lives if we are to learn and grow. But this is really crucial. Errors are symptoms, not the disease. Quite often, if I make an error, it's because the system is wrong and that I'm allowed to make that error, or that error is not picked up. So human error is a symptom of an incorrect process, an incorrect structure, lack of training, lack of education. So the error itself is not the problem. It's what allows that error to happen that we need to address. The best people in the world can make mistakes. And in fact, the higher up in an organization than you are, you're still human. You're still going to make mistakes. The trouble is, the higher up you get, the bigger those mistakes are, and the bigger the effect that they have on people. So the best people can make the worst mistakes. And even as we try, the harder we try, the more likely we are to make mistakes. Manage the manageable. Since human nature is largely unmanageable, and it is, people will be people, whatever we try and do, we must focus on the things that we can control. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of trying to automate as much as possible of that human-machine interface. We can't automate it all, but the more that we can, the more we can take out of the user's hands, then the better. And then we can focus on the bits that are left over. You know, that people talk about, oh, this makes me so cross. The human is the weakest link. No, the system is the weakest link. It's the human that makes the mistakes, but it's the system that's wrong. And in fact, if you can harness those individuals, if you can bring them together, if you can educate them and make them part of the organization's defenses, then they are a huge asset. You know, a line I've used in the past is, how big is an organization's security team? Oh, is it 5? Is it 10 people? Is it 20 people? And eventually somebody in the audience will pick up and say, actually, it's 16,000, because that's how many people work in our organization. And that's ever such an important point. Your workforce should be your security force. The specialists should just be there to manage the technical stuff. Everyone needs to account for, acknowledge their errors. When you make a mistake, acknowledge it, because we can't hide it. If you hide it, it just makes it worse. So this is a really difficult issue about whether you punish people when they make mistakes, because that will stop them coming forward and admitting it. I'm a great fan that you don't punish people, you educate them. If they keep repeating the mistake, that's different, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And never give up on this. This is a process. You just must never give up. Security awareness and education is not an event. It's not something you do. It's a process. It's something that becomes part of the way you should be doing business. I hope you're all still with me. So there is no single best way to avoid human error. It happens at all times, at all levels, within all organizations, at different reasons, requires different ways of management. So error management is a continual process. We've got to look at the system as the whole, and it's no good just playing the whack-a-mole game with error. We can't just hit mistakes as they happen. We need to understand what's causing them in the first place. I come back to this point now, which is really important, is the unforgivable error. These are the ones that we don't need to make because they just need a bit of effort to prevent. They're the mistakes that keep occurring, the common ones, the simple ones, the repeated ones, the easily avoidable ones, the ones that happen all the time because we're just careless or lazy or stubborn or refuse to play the game, to follow the rules. They don't need to happen, but they can be just as fatal as the big ones. They can be avoided. They can be eliminated. I am pretty understanding about people making mistakes in my world, but I find it hard to forgive those mistakes that people keep making when they don't have to. I think we all know what we're talking about here. I'm just going to play you this little, I love this. It's some years old now, you may have seen it, but it's just so lovely.
The truth of the matter is, we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, the most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on the Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie 6/12/95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's, you know, it's for me it's strong enough. Ireland 1, 2, 3, 4. Gemma 1, 2, 3. Spelled Gemma. Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So like
what's a good Italian password?
my grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password.
But the real tragedy there, ladies and gentlemen, is there's not one person here today who can't relate to that in some way or the other. And, you know, that's life. That's what people are like. That's what they do. And that is what I give as an unforgivable error. If we as security managers haven't got on top of that, then I don't know what to say. Have I got time for another quick one, Mirza? Have I got time for another quick video? People just leave so much information about themselves around. The digital footprint allows me as a social engineer to gain so much more access. I can construct a phishing email just by looking at LinkedIn or Facebook or let me show you this one.
What's the name?
Joel.
What was the name?
Alex.
Alex, there you go, Johnny.
If you like our Facebook page, we give you a free hot drink and a free pastry. We have a new light for Damien. We have a new light for Damien.
Standing by.
Hi there, can I help?
Yeah, I just liked your Facebook page. Okay, I'll search Facebook now. Search for Google. Have a phone number. I've got his email address.
Okay, Carly, are you ready for information on Damien?
Yep, I am.
Mother's maiden name is thanks with
What's the name? Nicholas.
Nicholas. His date of birth, 7th of May. He lives at 38A.
Just a couple of seconds.
Previous address. We've got the postcode.
Yep, got it. Damien, age 26 and a fitness instructor.
How do you know that?
Where did you go to UCL? Martin went to South Thames College, assistant psychologist at Great Ormond Street.
How did you know?
No, I'm a Christian as well.
Oh yeah, we know everything about you, Martin. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Anna from Russia.
This is a slide I have been using for years. I dragged it out of the archive, especially for today. Security breaches are never about being killed by an alligator. Usually they are about being eaten to death by 1,000 chickens. And if you look at a security breach, every single step could have stopped that breach happening. Each little chicken causes another peck and leaves. It's the holes in the Swiss cheese lining up. It's what causes aircraft accidents. Lots and lots of little mistakes. On the other hand, let me turn that around and say quite often, if you track back your successes, they're also caused by 1,000 chickens, but in a positive way. So security breaches are not about being killed by an alligator. They're about being eaten to death by 1,000 chickens. And each one of those little chickens is somebody making a mistake, somebody not doing something, somebody not caring about something, somebody making the mistakes that Dr. Safa talked about. And if we can educate and make people more aware of the consequences of what happens if they don't follow the rules, then we're in a good place. Good managers understand that failures will happen and that they and their charges will make mistakes. How we respond to those errors is hugely important, how we manage them and resolve them, and how we and our teams learn. I never mind mistakes in others except where they are easily preventable, where they've been caused by simple carelessness or laziness, and especially when those mistakes are repeated. So there's very little, if any, excuse for making the same mistake more than once, and no excuse for making errors that could have been avoided just by taking care and checking. So that really was my theme this morning. That's me and Doris. So you heard it here first, folks. One day people will be quoting me on this one. How you respond to your own mistakes illustrates your character, but how you respond to others defines it. And I have been taught over the years by wonderful people on how to overcome my own weaknesses and how to avoid failure a second time. I respond, like most people, much better to the carrot than the stick. That's me. There's a blog there on our website, which I have just published on the subject of human error. It's a fuller version of my talk today, and it goes into stories more as well. So if anybody's interested, it's just, if you go to the SASIG's website and just click on Martin's logs, they're all there. So that's me done, my dear friend Mirza. I hope that is sufficient.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks. Now we have another 20 minutes and we have still George, and then we'll do a little quick question answers. Let me go introduce George very quickly. George, I know him also, just like Martin, I know from a long time. George and I go back until I think 1997 was the first time. And at that time, I felt like it was me and George alone in this part of the world who was trying to focus on information security. George used to be in Kuwait at that time. So you can clearly see George has a very long experience, over 30 years of experience. George is also an international speaker. He's a CTO with companies. He worked on blockchain, AI, IoT. George, I think recently he left the job. His last job, he was also heading a security practice with Huawei. Now he's going into some other venture. I'll let George come up and give a little quick talk. Go ahead, George. It's all yours.
It's a bit of a challenge with the audio, so I am doing the audio from the mobile and the broadcast from the laptop. Don't ask. Sometimes the jamming that happens from various places is interesting. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been in Bahrain for close to 25 years plus, so it's kind of like my home away from home. So it's always been a very good extreme hospitality. So the session that I'll do is quite brief in terms of slides, but quite important in terms of approach and framework. And then I'll highlight the 5 key items that I think are key for cybersecurity, but some of the speakers earlier also covered. Since I've been in cybersecurity for over 20 some years, I remember running the first hacking workshop in 1999 in the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce. But it's been quite an interesting journey. Other important elements, I think, is the fact that cybersecurity, although it appears difficult, if we apply things in a structured way, it can actually put us in a better position than sometimes we are today. So let me just highlight some of the key elements. I created something very simple for which I've done quite a few articles and a book that is, like I said, 90% done. Eventually, I will finish the last chapter. And I usually used to call this the A4 of security. It became A5 and eventually A6. I actually have 10 A's, but let's stick to the first simple 6 A's. And the idea is to create a continuous process that can help CXOs or companies that or individuals that are not necessarily cybersecurity literate to have an approach towards cybersecurity that will work for them regardless of the technology. So the first A stands for assess. Really means that if you really want to understand where you are in terms of cybersecurity, you need to audit, you need to evaluate, you need to do health check to see where is really the risks that are contributing to cybersecurity. The second A stands for architect. It really means once you know where the problem are, you can design a cybersecurity solution that is actually fit for the need that you have. If you're a single individual, if you're a high net worth individual, if you're a multinational, if you're a defense organization, the needs are radically different. So you cannot really use the same approach for everybody. The third A is what I call apply. That's where you take the elements of the design and you implement them in a technology way, in a human resource way, etc. The first 3 you do, but the fourth one is even more important. It's not about implementing elements of cybersecurity, like, for example, something as simple as an antivirus. It's reading the messages that the antivirus produce and reacting to it on a daily and regular basis. And this is what I call the administration of security. So administer really means the things that you do in and out all the time continuously to ensure that security is actually defended correctly. And the last 2 I added, a few years later, but they're, I think, as important. One is what I call awareness, so that highlights the fact that the end user is really the biggest risk in security. And if you don't understand and address the user component, no matter what amount of technology you throw at security, you will always fail. As you understand, the users are still the biggest and most important risk factor. And one other element that I call the last A is the importance of agility, because if you're not responding fast enough to cybersecurity threats or incidents, it doesn't really matter all the other A's. So there's a concept known as time-based response or time-based security. So the idea when we put all this framework together is that it's not something you do once. It's like a funnel. You do it continuously. You do it regularly, as often as once a week or once a month. And each time you do this iteration, what you're doing is you're introducing maturity to yourself. And as you're introducing maturity in the security controls, you're reducing your business or your operational risk. So let's look at this from the same way you actually drive a car. If you drove a car like 30 years ago, many didn't even have a seatbelt. However, the car that you actually drive today not only has a seatbelt, but a seatbelt is not enough to keep you safe. You're using ABS, using traction control, using airbags, using collision avoidance systems, and many more to actually give you the full protection. But even with all of this, you can still hurt yourself. And that is obviously the awareness and the agility aspect. So you need to respond in time, and you need to factor in the human element to protect security end to end. Of course, elements of things like defense in depth still apply a lot, because any layer that you had in the protection of security actually buys you time. So the more time you can buy, the better you can defend yourself. But keep in mind that in time-based security, if the protection does not work, then it really, it is not enough. So the way we have set up time-based security is a simple equation. Protection, or the time for protection, must be greater than the time for detection and reaction. So, and again, this is also a continuous process. So protection is the things that slow down security. Detection is the things that understand that you have been attacked or penetrated. And reaction is the response and the time to recover from the attack. And obviously, you're doing this in a continuous way. In today's world, when you have what we call a zero-day attack, guess what? P equals 0. So the first P did not protect you. That means the bullet went through the vest. So there are really aspects that help you protect yourself is detection and response. So that really means you need to minimize or maximize the amount of detection and maximize the agility in terms of response to actually be successful in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a management practice. Like any other management practice, if you don't have the proper metrics, security metrics here, you will never be good at security. So you need to understand the trends, and through dashboards and data, make or allocating of the right resources to the right problem. So you need to have a framework that combines all these elements together in a structural way. So you have standards at the bottom, PCI compliant, HIPAA, which has been around for many years, COBIT, SOC, some of them are based. You have ISO 27000, the more recent privacy ISO 27701 based on the GDPR from Europe. And you are implementing all of this as a continuous approach towards achieving a better security framework in your infrastructure. One last point that I want to add here, you will never achieve complete security if you only focus on the information part. You need to also integrate the physical part. And today, because of the advance of IoT and everything having pretty much an IP address in our lives, you need to have a way that combines the security, the management of the device level, physical security, and information security management together to give you a much better holistic approach towards cybersecurity. Does that really mean we're done that? No, you need to introduce innovation. Now, what does it really mean, innovation? There's many technologies that can help our processes to make security much better. I'll give you one example, fuzzing. Fuzzing is the technology that enables us to identify code red. Two companies almost identified code red or Heartbleed within hours of each other. One was Google, and the other one is a European organization called Codenomic. And fuzzing was the technology that enabled them to discover that. But today we have other approaches that have proven to be quite successful, like, for example, crowdsourcing and bug bounty, where organizations pay an amount to help everybody make their environment more secure. We have new approaches like cyber range solutions that enable you to take your team and try your team in a real life situation world so they become better at their profession. And things like cyber drills are extremely important. There's many others. Obviously, in today's short time, we obviously cannot cover all of them. I have a simple rule as it applies to cybersecurity. I usually call cybersecurity today a gunfight, not a knife. So if you bring a knife to a gunfight, you're obviously going to be outgunned. So that really means if you want to be successful in cybersecurity, don't just bring a gun. Bring all your friends that have guns, and in this you'll have a better chance of winning the war. What it really means is that the attackers are much better at sharing information than the cybersecurity professionals are. So we need to do much better effort at achieving this overall cybersecurity information sharing. I continue. If you're in cybersecurity, guess what? Your job is never really done. Cybersecurity is this continuous skilled process. So you have to be in for lots of coffee, lots of Coca-Cola, pizza, or other ingredients to keep you going and be successful in the day-to-day of cybersecurity. Today, this is the few slides I wanted to just to give you a little bit an appreciation. But I do want to also highlight that apart from the A6, there's a few important elements that I consider are changing dramatically the aspects about cybersecurity. One is obviously the importance of big data and AI. Today, there's just so much data to process and analyze that you cannot do it in manual way. So you need to introduce some big data systems and AI systems that identify clusters of attack and help you respond in a better way. Technology is advancing fast. Quantum computer is going to break a lot of our existing algorithms. But guess what? Computing can be used on both sides. It can be used to invalidate the existing systems that we have, but it can also be used to make our systems stronger by using things like quantum encryption, in which you're able to use methods very similar to the one-time pad, or as closely as possible to the one-time pad, and enables you to give you complete protection. So that really means that if you combine all of these elements together, you'll achieve a much better approach. Other important elements, things like blockchain, which is cybersecurity without a central authority, have a much more distributed approach towards cybersecurity. And the final element that I consider still the most important today, I would say probably 60 to 80%, is still the end user. And the end user is a problem because you're talking about changing human behavior. And changing human behavior is always going to be hard because it's kind of you have to use the carrot and the stick. The carrot you need to reward on behavior good, and the stick you need to beat up when the reward did not achieve the intended aspect. So you have the concept of the good cop, bad cop approach towards achieving a better security, kind of like the yin and the yang that our famous Asian friends use regularly. And this is my insights for today, and hopefully you enjoy, and looking forward to discussing with my colleagues from the panel, which we have known each other for a long time, maybe with the exception of Martin. But Martin, it's a pleasure to welcome you to our little circle.
Thank you, George. Thanks for your talk and the sharing aspect on the technical side. One thing which I noticed across all the three speakers yet is that there's a lot of focus on the end user. Martin, when you showed us all these videos and the weaknesses, this is so funny that it still surprises me that people walk into any of the big stores and they've got that if you buy so much, you can have this lottery ticket, fill in your information and drop it in this box. Everybody fills it. Everybody fills it where, they need to make sure all the information is correct, not realizing how much of their information they're giving away. Let me quickly introduce our fourth panelist who will join us now for the discussion part. That is Abul Fath. Ahmed Abul Fath is there from, right now he's working with the e-government authority in Bahrain. He has more than 12 years of experience in information security field. He is the Chief of Information Security Control Center at the Central Informatics Organization, which was known previously like that, but now you can call it e-government. He holds a master's degree and a bachelor's degree. I mean, he did his bachelor's and he did his master's from the Bahrain University on information technology. He has done a lot of courses as well on cybersecurity, and currently we receive from him and his team very regularly cyber alerts where he sends it out with an advisory on telling all the private and public sector what type of precautions or controls they need to be implementing for any upcoming threats. So welcome here, Ahmed. You just please unmute your mic.
Thank you, Mirza.
So let's try to do, we have at least 8 minutes. First, I'll quickly try to go through some of the questions which some people have put together. And then we can do a little more. I want to ask each one of you some bits of questions myself. But from the audience there was one question which was very straightforward, is having a strong password enough to be secure? And then there was somebody else who also asked that, do really people have that 123 as a password still today? At least I can answer one part. Yes, they have. I have a good collection of passwords. My team collects it. People simple make admin 123, their own name 123, their company name one. That's a typical one. And with the first letter being the capital on that side. But is having a strong password a good security control? Who would like, can we start with you, Ahmed? What do you think? Ahmed, your mic is still, yes.
Yeah. As a password that, can you repeat the question again? So the passwords.
Yeah, having a strong password, how much is it good enough in terms of security?
What we see is that not good enough as we expected before, because what we see that most the user that they are using, the speaker we speak about the human, and the human they will use easy to guess password. So as a measurement, what we think is that to have additional layer of protection, like for using multi-factor authentication, even the user is using easy guess to password, there is a type of multi-factor authentication like one-time password or additional thing that can protect the user.
Yeah, you rightly pointed out the multi-factor part. I don't know, because normally when I meet up, even in social gatherings, and I ask people to have multi-factor, especially on their social media and so on, I still find that more than 50% of the people when I meet up are not aware of multi-factor. They're not aware that all of their social media or email, there is a possibility that they can set up a second factor password, because just password enough is not good enough on that sense. Then we have another question. I'm trying to be a little quick, sorry. Dr. Safa, somebody was asking us about the gaming side, because you mentioned games for kids. And they're saying that as parents, we know that even on the online gaming, there are a lot of issues. So as parents, what are we supposed to be doing?
Yeah, as parent they are يعني iOS, even Android, they support some tools to supervise and to control your kids mobile. So for example, iOS, they have a screen time. The parents can go through these tools and control the mobile for their children. Also parental control in Android, so they have tools in the operating system. In addition, there are some software they can use it, like FamiSave, like Google provide even one tool, so they can control their mobiles, children mobile, through these tools. So I think the parents can control it from a far distance, so no need to take the mobile and check it. They can use the password for this, use the tools. The tools enforce the parent to put some password, so they can controlling going YouTube, which channels they can go, controlling even downloading, play the time. They put some restriction with the time. If the parent want the children to work يعني to play 1 hour, so they can restrict the time, the day, all this, so they can do it. يعني they can control the playing or work playing. They can.
Thank you, Dr. Safa. Thanks.
Okay, I wanted to add just one small thing, Mirza, sorry. One of the things that is employing in these games is what I call immersive experiences, where we have 2D, 3D world, etc. So there's an initiative that we have done out of California called xrsi.org, which is a nonprofit organization. We just released a framework for privacy about less than a week ago. So you can easily go online And this is going to help make the gaming industry much safer than it has been in the past as well.
Thanks, George. I'll move back to Ahmed. Ahmed, especially your experience right now, because you are trying to figure out the challenges which the private and public sector is having on a broader scale in Bahrain. Would you like to share with us that what do you see as a bigger challenge, especially with the COVID-19 and people going sort of online? So what do you think is a challenge, and how do you think, or at least one point of a challenge and one point to mitigate it?
Just before speaking about the challenge, we know that for anything that we need to improve, especially for cybersecurity, there is three main pillars we need to focus: people, technology, and process. People is the human. We need to have skills people and aware people. This is the most challenge that we face in cybersecurity, that we don't have enough skilled people, and we also have lack of awareness. And by having skilled people, they will create great procedure, and they will choose the right technology that they will help them to protect from adversity. So the most challenge that we see is that is the skills people. So what as a solution, what we as I see that as a solution is that investment in human, either is training and awareness, it will give a remarkable improvement in cybersecurity as well.
Okay, so you are also pointing out one area across which we see common is that people part.
Yes.
Ahmed, just one more thing. And in a private and public collaboration, at the moment, and I think Bahrain, we are doing quite good that you are sending out all these alerts to us. But are there any new initiatives you have in mind?
For now, is that
for collaboration?
For collaboration, is that what we're already doing now? Is sharing a threat advisory, and that threat advisory is as you know, that we are sharing indicated compromise, and also we are investigating some of them in this incident, and we're collecting indicated compromise. We share it with you, but without specific who's the customer, who's the client has been breached.
So if somebody can or they should, you would encourage them to, when they see some issues or attacks, they should report it?
Yeah, especially for the government, because our scope is that is serving our government client. And this one, I want to highlight one thing that what we see is that when we do security awareness for the people in the government, they are reporting an incident that has been not been discovered after doing the awareness.
Okay. Great, thank you. Martin, if I may go on to you. Yeah. Martin, I know that you have been a proponent of sort of saying this, and you changed that aspect, that don't look at human as the weakest link, rather see how you can leverage from the human being, making them part of their. So can you share any experience you have had with an organization where they actually tried to change that culture and tried to promote inside the organization that everybody should become like a security personnel in their mind?
I can't give specifics because there are just so many. The security company, which, as you know, was my old company, which I passed across to our managing director at Christmas, Zoe Edmeades. Look up the security company, folks. They're a great bunch of people changing organizations' behaviors. But I have to say, and I know we're running out of time, that when you get a security culture change program underway and people's behavior starts to change, it's like a parched summer meadow being given water. Suddenly it turns green. Suddenly the flowers come out. People want to be more secure. They just need to know what to do and how to do it in a language they can understand, and they will do it. That's the great positive thing.
Yeah, we just need to go and try to take that initiative to make them do that. Jean, can we still take another 2 minutes? Okay, if she doesn't respond, I'm going to go on. George, I wanted your view because here's the human part, but we want to know how the systems are doing, especially how are we leveraging from AI? Because everybody has this, and there was somebody who was also asking this question that in the future of cybersecurity, how are we going to be leveraging from AI? Because there's a big talk about it, but where is it practically being used?
Well, AI is actually being practically used today in the sense that machine learning systems, and we have quite a few implementations. Some, for example, in Florida, United States, we have been using AI with Red Lambda for almost close to, I would say, 10 years, like 9 to 10 years. Now, can we apply AI to everything? The answer is no, because not every problem is solvable by AI. But one thing that AI can help us address, especially when it integrates with big data in an effective way, it helps us identify areas where there is risk that the human factor was not able to identify. The other important aspect about AI is that it can deal with a much large number of dimensions. What do I mean by that? It can look at 1,000 verticals of data at a time instead of just looking at one. Some of the big problems obviously associated with AI is the training models and the computing capacity required to process that in a timely manner. But this has been solved by various technologies. One of the technologies basically by building a grid computer. So you distribute the processing of AI so you can achieve much faster response rate. So is AI perfect for every problem of cybersecurity? No, but it's definitely one of those important tools that we can use to help us reduce the risk, identify new threats that we have not seen before. Because I think one of the things important in cybersecurity, you should not be worried about what we already know. You should worry about what you did not identify in time, because the hackers are always thinking of new innovative methods to attack you. So only AI or similar tools can help you identify those new methods. So I think the evolution of AI will continue to be extremely important as we move forward.
Okay. Thanks, George. Thanks for that. We are running out of time, but I'll just like to take a concluding remark from Ahmed Abul Fath. Please, if you want to advise organizations here, especially in Bahrain, how would you like to advise them? What is an area they should be looking at?
Yeah, I like one phrase that maybe is advice. Prevention is ideal, but detection is a must. What we see is that most of the organizations, they focus on prevention and they didn't focus more on detection, which is that detection is a must.
So they're putting in a lot of efforts in, let's say they're putting in technologies at the back, but they're not really actively monitoring those technologies for the detection aspect.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Ahmed. Dr.
you
Sama, any concluding remark?
Thank you.
Dr. Sama, I was just asking you if there is any point you want to mention.
I'd like to mention something that AI is important for all fields, especially cybersecurity. But as George said, that not on all areas. Let me include my talk with this video, if you don't mind. Just a news, I heard it. I like to share it with you, if you don't mind.
Sure, a quick one.
Quick one, yeah.
Company in Japan this week. 4 robots being developed for military applications killed 29 humans in the lab. And they did it by shooting what he called metal bullets. I didn't know there was any other kind. The scariest part is that lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots, took apart the 3rd, but the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information about how to rebuild itself even more strongly than before. And this next sentence is a quote. I'm writing this down. I've been doing this for years. This is serious shit, Linda, but you're never going to hear about this in.
Yeah. So we need to be careful with using AI.
Yeah, okay. Um, well, let's wrap it up for this aspect. Thank you all for participating here. It was an excellent session. I hope all the audience got good information and understanding on security. Martin, special thanks to you. We woke you up 2 hours early today
Not at
to join our
all. Not
sessions.
at all. Doris
Okay.
sends her regards as well.
Yeah, Safa, thank you from Kuwait, from your side, and George and Ahmed, thank you here. Good. We'll wrap it up. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mirza, the speakers, the panelists, and everyone's joining the session today. That's very enlightening. Please stay tuned and join us in the next session starting shortly, driving the evolution of digital bank.